If you or your loved one is still using a phone made before 2012, or an older alarm system, or a life-saving medical device that relies on the 3G network, beware, these devices could stop working as soon as February 22nd. Tom Kamber, Executive Director of Older Adults Technology Services, known as OATS, and Senior Planet from AARP. Welcome to the show. First, I want you to let us know a little bit about your role with AARP and what you guys focus on.
Sure. OATS is a nonprofit organization. We've been around for 17 years, and we help older people learn technology and use it to improve their lives. And we are an affiliate of AARP now, and we work across the 50 states and help people through the AARP network and, again, outside of it, just to be able to use technology and live better. We've got a lot of programs available for free online at seniorplanet.org, which is our website. And we're here to talk about 3G today.
Yes. And I was going to ask that very thing. Make sure that we're all on the same page. And you explain to us, please, what is the 3G network and why is it being shut down?
Well, these are the kinds of challenges that a lot of older people come to us and say, it's like an alphabet soup thing. Do I have to be an engineer to live a modern life? And sometimes it can feel that way. But in fact, a lot of these things are relatively straightforward. And what's going on here is that the mobile phone systems that we're all using rely on technology infrastructure. There's a set of programs and different tools that have been developed. And the new generation of those is called the fifth generation, and people refer to it as 5G. And you may have heard about the new networks. But when they roll out those 5G networks, when they start to implement them, there's only so much space available on the wavelength that's out there, the spectrum that they use. And so they have to turn off some of the older systems to make way for the new ones. And the old one, that's the current one that's getting turned off, is the third generation system called 3G. And unfortunately, there are as many as 15 million Americans right now that are still using 3G devices. And so we really need people to take a moment and do a check or an inventory to make sure that they're not vulnerable to those devices turning off in the next, even the next few weeks.
So what I'm hearing you say is that even though you think that your device may still be working okay, you haven't had any problems with it, it's the network that supports it that's getting ready to shut down.
That is correct. And that's why we're so concerned about this and why AARP has been so active on this issue is these are emergency response systems, so you don't use them every day. And, the light on it still shows that it's connected to some kind of, your electric system, but it doesn't actually work if it doesn't connect through the mobile connectivity infrastructure that's out there. And so with all of these devices, typically when we make the transition, all of the companies inform people and they give them a little bit of notice and people start making the changes. But with COVID, those changes have not been happening in a regular pace because of all of the concerns around people's safety and security for letting technicians into their homes. And also, the alarm companies are telling us that they can't get their hands on the chips because of all the disruptions in the supply chain. So we're kind of up against the deadline. And the worst situation for people is that the biggest of the networks is the AT&T network right now that's about to turn off. And their start time is February 22nd, which is just days away. And even, anywhere in the country, if a person is using a 3G device that's connected to that network, it could stop working as early as February 22nd, which is really almost no time at all. So we're recommending people act today.
Does that mean, going back to the mobile phones, does that mean that everything that's stored on your phone, you would not be able to have access to it?
Well, if you upgrade your phone, you're going to need to take that old technology and put it into the new phone. So it depends on what system you have, but there could be data loss associated with it if people don't make that transition with their device and they are not paying for the service anymore. They do need to be aware that there could be some data loss. So it's very important for people to make this change sooner rather than later. For the most part, by the way, we're not against this transition because the new technology really is a better technology for people. It has more capacity, and there is a natural process by which we stop using the old one. So it's not a terrible thing from a broader perspective, but for individuals, we need to make sure that our information is protected and that we're not relying on some kind of emergency service that isn't going to be able to help us when we're really in need.
Mm-hmm. So we're at the point now of not wondering whether or not they're going to extend the deadline. This is a done deal.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, given the fact that we're talking about, less than 2 weeks away, I've already in my home I've gone through everything and made any changes that had to be addressed. We have an old alarm system that we decommissioned. And I really recommend that people do that today, because there's going to take a few days or even weeks to get the new devices in and get them set up and configured. It takes a little bit of work, nothing, major, but it's a little bit. And, there's such a critical tool for people staying safe that we do recommend people get active on it right now. There's a broader public policy issue where AARP has been really strongly advocating to protect people by extending the deadlines, but we're up against the wall here with folks, and there's no reason for anybody to delay if they're going to be relying on those 3G devices. There's no advantage from waiting any longer. So if you're listening to this broadcast today, then take out a notebook and go out and start making a list of things you need to change out.
Yeah. And you just mentioned earlier, though, that there's still millions that are relying on 3G, even today.
That's correct. And there's not a perfect list of exactly whose phones and which devices are going to shut down or when. So even if you wake up on the 23rd of February and your phone is still working, it doesn't mean you're out of the woods, because of course it's a rolling process. So things are going to change for people this year. And we are, it could be as many as 15 million people that have these devices. Certainly we're talking about millions that will be affected if they don't do the upgrades.
Okay, so again, how can people find out if they have a device that's going to be affected?
Well, there's two parts to the process. Part one is just to do an inventory, which means walking through your house and through your garage and looking at your car and asking, is there anything here that is a wireless connection that might use a mobile system to connect to my doctor or my emergency provider? And so you're going to look at your alarm systems and your anything that's medical that connects, or your personal emergency response system, and any phones that you may be relying on that might be more than a few years old, and just make a list of all of them, and then call the providers. You may have to go to your billing records about that if you've got a stack of bills sitting on your kitchen table, or you do it online, but go through your bills and see if you're paying for monitoring systems, and those will have the phone number. So call customer support and ask if the device that you have is going to be vulnerable to turning off because of 3G, and if you need to upgrade. The other thing to ask when you're doing that is ask for a no-cost replacement. Most companies are offering either very low-cost or no-cost replacements for these devices. There's no need for you to upgrade to something that you don't want or don't need if you're comfortable with the level of service that you've been provided. So that's very important as well.
Right. Okay, Tom Kamber, Executive Director of Older Adults Technology Services and Senior Planet from AARP. Before you go, please let people know where they can learn more about all that we've talked about today.
Well, we recommend three different options for people. First of all, I always recommend to check out the AARP website. They have a great article that explains everything we've been talking about here, and that's at aarp.org/3G. And then my nonprofit organization has put together a bunch of resources that are also available online that are at seniorplanet.org/3G. So seniorplanet.org/3G. There's also a hotline on there that people can call. It's 888-713-3495 that will help people just with a little bit of additional information. And then the last thing for people to just remember is that a lot of older people can use a little bit of support for their mobile phone expenses, because if you're low income, these can be a really burdensome cost for people. Mm-hmm. And there's a federal program called the Lifeline program that many older people can take advantage of, but they don't know about. And we do recommend taking a minute to see if you're eligible for that program. So go to the FCC website, Federal Communications Commission, and that's going to be at fcc.gov/lifeline-consumers, and that'll give people information about the Lifeline program. See if you're eligible, because it may be that the federal government can help you pay that monthly bill a little bit and reduce your costs.
Oh, great information, Tom. We thank you so much for coming on the show today. Tom Kamber from AARP. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me today.